Good evening. Welcome. Namaste. Let us begin with a prayer. We'll chant the Om mantra 3 times as a group. The mantra which prepares our mind, creating that sense of equanimity or a relaxed disposition by which we can alight our mind to the Upanishad, profound statements to come. So we'll chant Om. 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 ॐ श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं भाररायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुवात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्यक्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. May we discover peace within. May there be peace outside and peace pervading everywhere. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. So, the entire study of Vedanta, for students of Advait Vedanta, the entire study can be summed up in that great statement, Tat Tvam Asi, you are that. And that was put in a different way, but exact same meaning, Tasmad va e tasmad atmana. We saw that statement as the Brahman, or that supreme truth, creates. That supreme truth being non-separate, Advaitam, from the self, you. So it's very obvious that we see differences and experience them in the world. You don't have to inquire much into that. It's a given experience using my perception and inference. So many differences are there. But the Upanishad, Mother Shruti, is always trying to take us back to get that holistic vision, the vision of there is no other, or the vision of oneness. And in that vision, the profundity is that you're equated with that. Tvam, you are equated with tata, that. When you look into that, you find that the direct meaning of the words doesn't seem to line up. When I look at the word tat, I'm thinking of Ishvara, or God. And what comes to my mind with God is the all-knowing, the all-powerful, and the all-pervasive. And now I'm equated with that. Tvam. When I look at the direct meaning of the word tvam, I find, oh, I have some knowledge. I have some power. which slips through my fingers. Very difficult controlling all of life situations and all my people. You know, just trying to get the kids to school or get to bed on time. Difficult, very little power. And then also, my body is so small in the vast scheme of things in this vast universe. So this statement seems ridiculous, a big contradiction when we look at the direct meaning of those words, tvam, you, and that. But Shruti wants us to hear that out, continually repeating that equation in several different formats. Here in this Upanishad, we saw that. Tasmad va e tasmad mana akasha sambhuta. From that space element was born from this non-separate truth, Brahman, which is the same as the Atman, you. So it's interesting because those words always have a Shakti, an ability to reveal something. They can reveal through um, creating a kind of attribute, a sense of pointing out something. You can also use a word to reveal by a species. The word cow indicates a certain object through a species, or guna, an attribute. For example, cool lemonade. You can point out the object, here the drink, by adding that adjective. Sometimes you can also point out a word by an action, kriya. And you can also have that shakti or power to point out something by a connection, how things are related. I'm a father with reference to my son, something like that. But how are we pointing out you and Brahman, this profound equation? That's why we saw last week there was this very powerful statement that said, Yeto vacho nivartante apra apya manasasaha. It seems that if when, as seekers of truth, as we're trying to approach this truth or this Brahman, it seems that the words, along with the mind, retreat back. The deeper philosophical meaning of that is that instead of looking at the direct meaning of the words, we're applying a new approach of looking at the indicative meaning, lakshartya, they call it. Instead of vachartya, the direct meaning of the words you and that, we have to find the deeper meaning, the underlying essence of what does the Shruti mean when she says you, and what does she mean when she says that? When you understand the deeper implied meaning of those, then you see the equation. So this is a kind of equation that we're solving. But in this equation, it involves your heart, that buddhi, that settled, relaxed mind. That's why we do all these prayers. So on the outset, as I was saying on the outset, it seems like in this equation, it looks like I'm a glowworm and I'm equated to the sun. A glowworm does have some light and it's beautiful too, no doubt. But the sun in the presence, that glowworm in the presence of the sun is, you can hardly see him. That fellow is so small and seems like his light has no shine compared to the vast sun. So how is this equation possible? Hence, to see that, we need to be able to understand the deeper meaning when she says you, and the deeper meaning when we say God or Ishvara, Tata, seeing those equations. So that's exactly, we may be thinking, why are we doing all this study? Now we're doing that Panchakosha Viveka because that Viveka gives us deep clarity on what is the real meaning of me, Tvam, the word you or I. So what we're trying to find is the word Atman in Sanskrit. Atman means the self, but the real implied meaning of it is the ground of my I experience. What is really intrinsic to me? What is when I negate, what changes? When I can clearly include what I perceive, what obtains as the perceiver? What obtains as me, the core person or self? Discovering that creates a tremendous silence and clarity in one's mind to be able to easily leap to seeing that unity between me and God. In other words, obtain or know my nature as that joy that I seek. So what we're doing is we are clearly showing how I can never be what I objectify or what I'm aware of. Therefore, that brings me deeper and deeper into a presence, that presence or awareness that I am. So I would like to take up on a particular mantra. It was difficult. We were having some difficulty last week finding it in the book, but I did look there and it's there. It's under the section. I have it pulled up on my computer. It's under section 4 in that PDF I gave. That section 4 underneath that says mind and intelligence. We're going to start there. And if you've got the other book, it starts with in Sanskrit, yato vacho nivartante. So here we were learning about, last week we were exploring about the Manomaya Kosha. Just a quick summary on that. What was interesting is Upanishad said that your mind is basically word, the word. Here equated it to the sacred text of the Vedas. But the meaning of that we kind of explored a little bit more. It was looking at that I'm experiencing my mind in terms of thoughts, those corresponding feelings and emotions connected with them, born of memory. Now, one thing that I didn't explore last week that's quite interesting is when you even explore or look into your own mind, the experiences in terms of thoughts bubbling up. Sometimes we have that tendency when we're not in an objective mood to feel negative or uplifted by what we're thinking. But when you look at that, it feels as if it's my mind, my thoughts, my problem, my difficulty. But diving a little bit deeper into that, we find that all the thoughts and experiences that are bubbling up are born from the world outside. It gives you a kind of feeling that your mind and your body are not independent or isolated from the world. That's when you start moving into that mode of Ishvara, that mode of the supreme intelligence governing everything. My mind and thoughts are the experiences that I've had or shared bubbling up from the outside world, which is born of that higher intelligence. But in that investigation, we were also seeing that sometimes mind can have higher, elevated kind of emotions. Or sometimes we can think that we're understanding things, understanding the truth in terms of the level of how we experience our emotions. So, hence, this particular verse, yeto vacho nivartante, as we seem to approach the Brahman, approach the truth, mind, along with the words, retreat. So, that means, does that mean, is it Brahman is impossible to know? No. If that was the case, then Shruti would be lying, as well as all those various sages and saints who we know who gained this self-knowledge, who were living masters, gaining this knowledge while being in the world and then sharing that joy in the world. So we have that trust that it's possible to know, yes, and it's possible to hand over this knowledge fully with the help of a teacher and the scripture. But what does it mean by the words and mind retreat? The thing is that the mind will always try to objectify the truth. We're looking at something that's not an object, but happens to be the truth of the subject. So as soon as you say, I have it, you'll lose it. As soon as you say it's mine or something that you can put in your pocket, Brahman's not like that. You can't put it in a container. You can't contain the Brahman. So there's a kind of warning there. I've given this example before, classic example, but it's something like asking a sleeping person if they're asleep. The very announcement or pronouncement, yes, I'm deep asleep, shows that they're not sleeping really. Similarly, one of the signs of a realized person or one who gains this knowledge is quietude, humility, simplicity, and that space by which they can objectify the word. That's what we're looking at. So let's just chant this again and warm up our voices. So I'll chant it first just as a reminder, and then you can repeat after me. Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidvan न बिभेति कदाचनेति तस्येष एव शारीर आत्मा यः पूर्वस्य. Now you can repeat after me. Yato vacho nivartante
यतो वाचो निवर्तन्ते
apraapya
अप्राप्य
manasa saha
मनसा सह
anandam
आनन्दम्
brahmano vidvan
ब्रह्मणो विद्वान्
na bibheti
न बिभेति
kadachaneti
कदाचनेति
tasyesha eva
तस्यैष एव
sharira atma
शारीर आत्मा
yah purvasya.
यः पूर्वस्य.
Great. So a realized person or a person of knowledge who gains this knowledge, how are they gaining that knowledge? By having a resolved mind, sitting at the feet of a master, listening to these words. And in these words, they create that kind of cognitive shift where I'm able to clearly see who I am, free from upadhis, free from all that I can objectify. In other words, these panchakoshas. Then I'm also able to do an investigation on what do we mean by God or the Lord or Ishvara. By gaining that clear understanding, then these statements, you are that, become so clear and break into that space of clear jnanam, self-knowledge as you are. So such a knower, vidvan, understands that Brahman as anandam. And the signature of such a person, ananda meaning happiness, your nature, and a signature of that, napibheti kadajaneti. That person doesn't fear. Now, does it mean that they never experience the sensation of fear? No. That's useful. How is that useful? For protecting your body. Like when you need to get out of the road when a car's coming. That's still there. But the deeper meaning of that is that you don't recoil or shun or turn your eye at a situation that may be discomforting or may be new and can evoke that fear when you feel that I'm other than what I experience. So that oneness experience gives you that ability to relate with everyone in a healthy way. That's how we apply this. Relate with everyone in a healthy way. And in a way where you have that kind of learner's attitude. Now, does that mean also that I should just go around in crazy dark alleys or places where that are not according to my dharma? No. Sometimes you need to put healthy fences to make good neighbors. That's okay. To take care of yourself emotionally. That's fine. And you have all the freedom to do that, being this truth. But a realized person is relaxed about it. They don't have that inner unrest, sometimes known as fear. Na bibheti kadajaneti. So emotions are not the final destination, but emotions are never apart from you. They shine in your awareness. So what we saw first, the first three koshas, if I can sum it up, you are able to objectify your body. Your body is available for your objectification. That way alone, you can notice all the various changes from that time when the mind gets developed enough for you to be able to recognize and remember your childhood, moving into adulthood, moving into middle age and old age. You can see that change. Why is that possible? Is because there's a changeless entity. Otherwise, there'd be total confusion in your memory, not knowing who you are apart from what you objectify. So the first sheath is a great leap. I am aware of my body. My body is never aware of me. That drigdrishya viveka. So that's the first step. You can also objectify your physiology. And by that, we also mean the condition of your senses. So when we talk about pranamaya kosha, we gave that detailed explanation of all the different movements of the vital winds. But to put it really simply, to make it clear, you can notice the conditions of your senses. You can notice the conditions of your energy. That's available for your objectification. For example, sneezing, yawning, blinking, feeling energized, feeling a little sleepy, the ability to hear, feel, taste, touch, all that's involved because the prana is backing the senses. Similarly, you go deeper and also notice that the field of thought and emotions is also available, that movement of the mind. Now we're moving very deep. You notice when your mind is even disturbed. You're aware of that and you can report it. That wouldn't be possible without you, that ever-present awareness. So tasyesha eva sharira atma yaf purvasya. Of that mind, the mind is embedded in the pranamaya. Now, we left off with something subtler, which was known as Vijnanamaya. Vijnanamaya is still in the realm of mind, but here the English equivalent word, which doesn't really do it justice, is intellect. Why it doesn't do it justice is just because we have to unpack a little bit more. What do we mean by intellect? What we mean is your cognitive faculty, and along with that, your sense of agency, your sense of being a doer, one who takes action and then also owns it up. And that's experienced as, I did this, I did not do this. I'm glad I did it. I regret I did that. This cognition faculty also too is of determination, is your will, your ability to feel clear of mind and determine your way forward. So the cognitive faculty is called Vijnanamaya Kosha. Let's chant this mantra regarding that. This is just a little bit of review, but it's helpful because that review helps us clearly see ourselves, the ability to objectify and then see the deeper nature that you are. Vijnanam yajnam tanute, karmani tanute picha, vijnanam deva sarve brahma jeshtham upasate, vijnanam brahma chedveda, tasmat chetna pramadyati, sharire papmano hitva, sarvan kaman samashnuta iti. Oh, I may have skipped I skipped the mantra. So after yato vacho nivartante, apra apya manasaha, anandam brahmano vidvan nabibheti kadachaneti, tasyesha eva sharira atma, yaf purvasya. Yes, right after that. Tasmad va etasma'an manomayat, anyo antara atma vijnanamayah, tenesha purnaha, sava esha purusha vida eva, tasya purusha vidatam, anvayam purusha vidaha, tasya shraddeva shiraha, ritam dakshinah pakshaha, satyam uttarav pakshaha, yoga atma, mahapucham pratishtha, tadapyesha sloka bhavati. Were you able to follow along?
Yes.
Okay, let's chant that together. Tasmadva
Tasmadva
etasma'at
etasmaan
manomayat
manomayat
anyontara
anyantara
atma
atma
vijnanamayah
vijnanamaya
tenaisha purnaha
tenaisha purnaha
sava esha purusha vida eva
sava isha purushavidha eva
tasya purusha vidatam
tasya purushavidatam
anvayam purusha vidaha
अन्वयं पुरुषविदः
tasya shraddeva shiraha
तस्य श्रद्धेव शिरः
ritam dakshinah pakshaha
ऋतं दक्षिणः पक्षः
satyam uttarav pakshaha
सत्यम् उत्तरः पक्षः
yoga atma
योग आत्मा
mahapucham pratishtha
महापुरुषं प्रतिष्ठा
तदप्येष
एष
श्लोको भवति.
श्लोको भवति.
So similar line of thinking is given here for the Vijnanamaya, that it's subtler, inner more, feeling the shape of the person. And Vijnanamaya, made up of that intelligence, that cognitive person. Purusha Vedaha, assuming that same form. Now, we learned about, little review still, I know, but we learned about those limbs of this particular bird, the Vijnanamaya kosha. Here, the Shraddha was the head, Shiraha. Shraddha here means this part of your mind is consisting of faith. You can think of that as your basic belief system, which goes a long way in shaping our emotions and our thoughts and our feelings and our actions. What is it that I believe in? Or you can also think of that too, kind of similar in vain assumptions. What do I assume is real? What do I assume is reality? I would also like to explore and think it's important to think about the Shraddha here too more as your commitment. At this level, the person, when abiding deeply at this level of mind, they have a sense of purpose, a sense of commitment to something. It could be their family, spouse, or maybe a more deeper kind of vision about life, committed to well-being. And that word well-being has a deeper meaning for them, and they apply that in all aspects of their life. So Shraddha, your commitment at the head. Then the right wing, Dakshina Paksha, was rhythm. Rhythm means what's in order. You can think of this too practically like your lifestyle, how you arrange things. God is said to be Sundaram, beauty, and we feel beauty is arrangement, proper order of things. That's one way of thinking about beauty. I think I told you that story once where Pujya Swamiji was visiting some temple, and in the temple there was trash laying everywhere, cigarette butts, people lying here and there. He thought, what is this? Yeah, this is a temple. So he asked the pujari, what are you doing? This doesn't seem right. And he said, Swamiji, don't you know everything is Brahman? And Swamiji was really taken back. He said, you're right. It's amazing. You're right. That's true. But isn't Brahman beauty? Isn't beauty also order? Putting things in the right place. That's beauty. So let us please manifest that in our life. And such a person at Vijnanamaya has that order, that internal and external order called the rhythm, the right wing. The left wing is truth, satyam. Here, that truth means a certain alignment between your thought and um, your speech, what you speak, and your action, body. So satyam means that kind of satyam and rhythm are two wings of this bird. You can tell together they fly. So they really work together. Rhythm and satyam work together. The heart of this dimension of our mind, or the chest, yoga atma. Yoga here means your discipline. So I would kind of call it that centering principle by which you direct your all of your energies. That's what yoga means here. So based upon my shraddha, the head of this bird, based upon what I'm committed to, what I care about most, I give that direction by creating discipline. And I'm aligned and balanced by that on either side with order and truth. But what is it grounded in? So we're finding that this dimension of our mind is the intelligence to act and to own up that action. Here, the Rishi says it's actually rooted in the greater intelligence, Mahaha, or Ishvara. So sometimes in taxonomy, when we explain how the creation manifests, we say that supreme truth willed, in that form, the first form, when those subtle energies of light and motion and solidity, when they stir, it seems, the first product of that is this supreme intelligence, meaning Ishvara, Sarvamyaha, the all-knowing principle, um, Sarvashaktiman, the one who wields all power, and also Sarvavyapi, who's everywhere, all pervasive. But there's still a vehicle there, but it's just so subtle. It's still the gunas, but so subtle. So here, what's said is the tail of this bird, in other words, the root of your mind, is actually the collective intelligence. So you can think of this as the sum total of all minds. What's deeply relieving here is that your mind, the key point here is that your mind and the various experiences that you have based upon your intelligence is rooted in a larger cosmic mind. Or you can think of it as the total collection of all minds. How we apply that principle to our life means that I stop condemning myself. That's the key there. I stop self-hate. My mind stop ripuratma and Gita. Mind stops becoming my enemy, but rather my friend. So that's why let us look at this particular shloka. After describing this Vijnanamaya, again, Rishi gives a shloka. Yeah, Seth, you have a question
Um,
or something to say?
yeah, this Mahat, I have a issue how to understand it really. Is it like you said, a collective mind, it's a super consciousness kind of thing, like that intelligence that's out there that we can tap into, like some people put it?
Yeah. For example, you may have sometime a deeper insight about how things are structured, or maybe you have a certain insight about what a person's feeling because you can kind of extend your perception in a larger sphere. You know, that feeling of empathy. That could be one way of looking at tapping into the collective mind. Or sometime just think about even too in culture, um, how there are certain gnomes or certain accepted truths depending upon the culture, because there's a collection of thought. There's a kind of collective mind by which everybody's sort of in resonance with.
Okay.
So, does that make sense at all?
Yes, it makes sense. It's different from what when you say consciousness, which is kind of like inert.
Hmm. Yeah, see here, that's an old idea, I think, maybe what you're referencing, that the consciousness is kind of um lame and
Yeah.
inert, and the Shakti or the intelligence is blind but active.
Yeah, but this is
That
it's yeah, touchy-feely kind of.
yeah, so we don't subscribe to that.
Okay.
We feel that actually everything is intelligence itself, which is Brahman. So that source of we're finding is actually just one whole being called Brahman. And that Brahman we saw earlier is never away from space and never
Right.
away from air, fire, water, earth, all those elements, which also means it's never away from
It pervades
anything.
all of this. Yes. Okay.
Hmm.
Got it.
So really the intelligence is in hearing through everything back to Brahman.
Okay.
That's our feeling about it. But here, what it means is that base of the mind is the, um, you can think of it as the Brahman's first expression, as the sum total of all bodies and minds and the base of creation. You can also think of it too as just the collective understandings, collective understandings, how people understand things in a larger group.
Good.
I hope that helps.
Thanks.
You have to
Yes.
think on this pretty deeply. My mind is actually Ishvara. That's the implied
Ishwar.
meaning here. My mind is just a kind of a like imagine a blueprint and then making a product out of that blueprint. It's like you have the map and then all the inherent details are there, and then you can make some small products out of that map. I think of that map as the collective intelligence or this mahaha here, and then my mind as a kind of offshoot or product of that. So it's got all the same structure, but just in a miniaturized scale.
Got it, Swami. Thanks.
Okay. So that's explained a little bit deeper here. Um, Now we'll come to that particular shloka. This gives more indication. What do we mean by vijnanam? So I'll chant this now, and then You can repeat after me. Vijnanam yajnam tanute karmani tanute picha Vijnanam deva sarve brahma jeshtham upasate Vijnanam brahma chedveda tasmat chena pramadyati sharire papmano hitva sarvan kaman samashnuta iti. Okay, you can repeat after me. Vijnanam
Vijnanam
Jnanam
yajñam tanute
yajnam
yajnam
tanute
tanute
karmani
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 tanute picha
tanute picha
tanute
vijnanam
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 deva sarve
eva
deva
sarve
sarve
brahma jeshtham
brahma jyotam
brahmacheshtam
upasate
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 vijnanam
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 brahma chedveda
brahma chedveda
brahmacheveda
tasmat chena
tasmachena
tasmachena
pramadyati
pramadhyati
brahmadyati
sharire
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 papmano hitva
apmano
apmano hitva
sarvan
sarvam
sarvam
kaman
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 samashnita ite.
samashnu
samashnitanti.
ite.
So several things are said here. What is the vijnanam? So here the shloka is further backing up what we were describing as the limbs. So here's a couple key things. I'm aware of my commitments. I'm aware of my faith. I'm aware that this falls as a belief, how I process the world. I'm aware of my order. I'm aware of my truth. I'm aware of that alignment. I'm aware of my discipline. And I'm aware or have that intuitive insight that my mind is rooted in something deeper,
Mhm.
meaning that maha. That's that kind of feeling there.
Like this.
It's a kind of feeling that I didn't make my mind. Who is that? Where'd that come from? So it brings you back into thinking a little deeper. And it must be rooted in some intelligence. I feel it's intelligently working. There's some days I don't feel that way. That's how, without this relationship, typically we're just blaming the mind. But when you pause and reflect, you start to feel there's an order. I mean, that capacity to split up the numberless units and arrange them in sequential time and be able to sequence back and forward. That's just incredible to have this gift of mind. So, what's said here is helping us further understand our presence deeper than and our ability to objectify this level. So, the first thing it says is Vijnanam is karmani. Vijnanam is said to be the one who's doing action, the doer. Of yajnam. Yajnam here means altruistic effort. Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna talks about this as loka sangraham, working for the well-being of the world. When we're abiding in that vijnanam, that intelligent, when we're acting as an intelligent human being, or rather I would just say a full human being, we're working for a higher purpose. Loka sangraham. Here the word used is yajna. Yajnam. So that's the first thing. Vijnanam is that sense that I do, I take action. You are aware of that. That's very profound. You are aware that you act. It also says that karmani te anite picha vijnanam deva sarvehe. The devas, the gods, worship vijnanam as Brahman. What's that mean? We saw that those devas really mean your senses. So the idea here is that the senses actually function because of your buddhi, your intelligence or intellect. Here that means that the buddhi is kind of like an organizing principle. So where that intellect moves, your senses flock and move towards them. Kind of like the queen bee moves, and then all the other bees move. And that, to further elucidate that, think about when your mind is present on a particular thought, you may be ignoring everything that's happening around you, completely oblivious to the laundry that's sitting at the bottom of the stairs because you're so focused on reaching your computer. So you just walk up the stairs, you don't even see anything around you. Meaning, senses worship the buddhi. When you're thinking that one single thought, I got to write that email. I got to write that email. You run upstairs, everything else is oblivious. You have just enough information to get up safely. Then later you think, what did I do with that laundry? So you go back. Now that that's on your mind, your awareness opens up. You notice, oh, it's been sitting there in that basket for too long. So buddhi is the organizing principle. That's what it means by the devas worship, the vijnanam. Now, also because you are acting intelligently and you're not so much influenced by the sway of your um, desire prompted passions. Desire prompted means desire for my own selfish needs versus basic needs we're talking about are necessary. My needs to have security, comfort, friendship, all that's fine. But we're talking about here, it says that when you're operating at this level, Papmana hitva, you become intelligent and not swayed by your negative passions, not swayed by the flux of emotions. Being such so, it says that it says literally that you abandon all sins at this level. That's really profound. Sin here means, um, in Vedanta, sin does not mean a stain on you. You're ever pure. Your nature is pure light. Atma Jyoti, the light of the self, self-luminous. Here, sin means that operating a body, mind, ego, when we're driven by our self-aggrandizing projects, that we typically move off course from our higher purpose. We typically move off the course. So sin is that kind of angle by which we deviate from what we care about most. And that can keep updating itself. That's alone we're noticing this is made up of limbs, parts. It's subject. It's a shariram, which means it can disintegrate. So Patmanao Hitva means you overcome kind of negative thoughts. You overcome your um, negative tendencies. You become a problem solver, master problem solver. That's why also it says, Sarvan Kaman Samashnuta iti. One attains all desires. Sarvan Kaman Samashnuta iti. That's a stretch. But those desires there is because the desire is getting refined and channeled towards a purpose. So your desires are instead of being so particularized, are becoming more um, focused on a vision. That's why I feel that Shiva in the Shiva Sutra says Jnanam Bandha, which is a very scary and atrocious statement to us Vedantins. It literally means knowledge is bondage, which we shudder when we hear that because we're saying knowledge is bliss. But when Shiva said that, what he meant is he meant that objective knowledge is bondage. Self-knowledge is freedom, which we're studying. But objective knowledge means that practically it's that kind of feeling like this has to be this way at this time and everything has to go according to my plan, which is impossible. We may get lucky and therefore we say a prayer and thank Ishvara, God's grace, for aligning all those variables. But living life like that is so stressful. We would rather live with a vision, a guiding principle, and then work out the details step by step, day by day, and not worry about trying to align everything so perfectly. So it's better to have that vision versus the binding knowledge. So that's why Patmano Hitva, when you have that bigger vision, then these you may sway here and there, but it's always that you're moving in that direction. So you may get a little sidetracked here and there, but you still got a compass pointing north. In yoga, just to connect it here a little bit for those who study Yoga Sutra, here, this I would call the state of mind operating in this space I would call is what's called a vishoga state in yoga, a state where you're free from sorrow. It's not that full knowledge of seeing this equation, I am that, I am the whole, but it's a state of peace, a state of quietude by which you can launch to further inquiry, which we'll see now. So, as I was saying in the beginning, when we're looking into the nature of you to understand this equation. You are that tvam. Tvam, what does tvam mean? So now we're kind of obtaining the deeper meaning of you. It can't be my body. It can't be my physiology and senses. It can't be my mind or thoughts. I am so much more. And also the intelligence by which I can even act. That I too aware. I'm even aware of my sense of I. That's where you become yato vacho nivartante. That's where you become so silent. That presence notices the I that arises and connects all of my experiences. So that I is a kind of bindu or window which you can peer into the vast space. And that vast space is experienced as joy. And now we're discussing the nature of Anandamaya Kosha. So let us look at this next mantra. This is really amazing. So Upanishad is showing us that at the root of you, and actually at the root of creation, is joy. This is kind of it takes a kind of shraddha, a pending understanding, and ontological commitment that things are coming from or springing from joy. That resonates with me. Tasyesha eva sharira atma yaf purvasya tasmad va etasmad vijnanamayat anyontara atmanandamayaha tenesha purnaha sava esha purusha vida eva tasya purusha vidatam anvayam purusha vidaha tasya priyameva shiraha modo dakshinah pakshaha pramoda uttarah pakshaha ananda atma brahmapucham pratishtha tadapyesha sloka bhavati. Okay, let's chant it together. Tasyesha eva
Tasyesha
Shesha
eva
eva
sharira atma
sharira
Harira
atma
atma
yaf purvasya
yah purvasya
Purvasya
tasmadva
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 etasmad
etasmat
Etasmat
vijnanamayat
vijnanamayat
Vijnanamaya
anyontara
anyo antara
Anyantara
atma
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 anandamayaha
anandamaya
Anandamayaha
tenaisha purnaha
tenaisha
Tesha
purnaha
Purnaha
sava esha
sava
Sava
esha
Esha
purusha vida eva
purusha vida
Purusheva
eva
Eva
tasya purusha vedatam
tasya
Satya
purusha
Purusha
vidatam
Vedatam
anvayam purusha vedaha
अन्वयं
Anvayam Purusha
पुरुषविदः
Vedaha
tasya priyameva shiraha
यस्य
Tasya
प्रियमेव
Priyameva Shiraha
विदः
modo dakshinah pakshaha
मोदो
Moda
दक्षिणः
Dakshina
पक्षः
Pakshaha
pramoda uttarah pakshaha
प्रमोद
Pramoda
उदर
Uttara
पक्षः
Pakshaha
ananda atma
आनन्द
Ananda
आत्मा
Atma
brahmapucham pratishtha
ब्रह्मपूचं
Brahmapucham
प्रतिष्ठा
Pratishtha
tadapyesha soka bhavati.
तरचेते
Tadapeshya
शोको
Soka
भवति.
Bhavati.
Great. So now something deeper of the former, there's this embodied self, different from the self made up from the intellect. Purvasya tasmad va vai e tasmad vijnanamaya. So subtler, inner more, anyaha antaraha, atma. There's a deeper self. We're going deeper. And what is it constituted of? Anandamaya. There's a sheath of ignorance, which is manifesting as pleasure, various grades, which we're seeing. We'll look at this. So here, what's really interesting is in our analysis, up to this point, everything falls into the field of this, what you can objectify. This is our final frontier or destination where I would say one becomes totally effortless and silent. There, the way that you break through that barrier of not knowing ignorance is through the pramanam, the scripture, hearing this teaching. So here, everything we've discussed so far is in the field of mithya, which does not mean it's unreal, but rather it means that it is never away from truth, satyam, but also dependent upon truth. So we're not talking about a separate reality when we're objectifying everything. We're seeing that there's something deeper, there's something lasting, whereas this is fleeting. It's incidental, whereas we're trying to find what is intrinsic to me. So this whole search becomes trying to understand oneself as one is. And the promise of that is free from sorrow and attainment of lasting joy. So here, what we're seeing now is that the Anandamaya, or this deep core being, is also made up of limbs, which are observable, but ever so subtle. It's also subject, being composed of parts, is also subject of change. It can go through shrishti, sthiti, layam, which means it arises, it's sustained for some time, and goes back. Practically, here's where we identify as a happy self. I am a happy person. And here, what we're going to talk about is the various grades of that pleasure. I'm going to use the word pleasure because when we say happy, we should mean the happiness that we are, or Brahman. So various grades of pleasure. The idea that is that here, certain activity or surroundings prompt that quiet mind and reveal the light of the self. And in that, we identify with that, thinking it's outside of us. So let's see what this bird or kosha is made up of. What's the head? Shiraha. Shiraha is called, it's a technical word, it's called priyam. I'll explain all this in a bit. Priyam. It's the head. The right wing is called moda. Some Sanskrit words. Left wing is called pramoda. The chest is said to be ananda. Brahmapucham pratishtha. And the tail, where does all this come from? Is Brahman. Nirguna Brahman. Consciousness. So let's see. The head, when the Rishi says that the head is Priyam, here now we're going to have an investigation on the grade of happiness. Priyam means that you sight. There's potential for a desire to be fulfilled. Priyam means that you sight something desirable. That sight can be very subtle. It can be like a thought. Ooh, I'm going to see her tonight, and we're going to have a really delicious meal. When you think about that, it brings you a certain rasa, a certain pleasure. And you can think about it even more, and you can start imagining, what will it be like? What will she wear? How will she do her makeup? Will she like what I cooked? These thoughts. And then that gives you a certain sweetness. Priyam, that sight. The right wing is said to be moda. Moda here means that you're beginning to enjoy that. So in this example, let us say that you're on your way or you're approaching each other. Or even the fact that you're enjoying that thought. First, it was a thought. Then there's a certain enjoyment in that as a kind of snowball effect. Pramoda, the left wing, means that you become fully involved with that. So you get an absorption there. You meet finally. There's a embrace. And with that comes a kind of fusion. From that, that is why the Rishi says the heart of this kosha is ananda. Here, ananda means that temporary suspension of all desire, that temporary suspension of feeling lack, feeling incomplete. This happens. Here's the insight: is that sometimes we feel as spiritual people. I've heard the teachings that I am the truth or I'm the spirit. Now let me go practice and experience it. No, you don't need any more experiences because your experiences are only as good as what you understand them to be. And I'll give you an example of that. It's very interesting. One time, my grand guru was going on a flight back to his ashram. And of course, the Swami's wearing the orange robes and all that, and trying to remain aloof and not bother anybody. So here the Swami gets into the plane and taking a flight back to India to Rishikesh, his ashram there. And some fellow is sitting next to him and asking him um, some questions, and they start to spark up a conversation. And the Swami says, says, where you're heading off to India. What are you doing? What's your plan? And he says with great delight, I'm going to see, I'm really looking forward to and going to see um, Swami Dayananda Saraswati. And he thinks, I'm Dayananda Saraswati. So then he further inquires, which ashram is this? Rishikesha. It's in Rishikesha. Where is it? Which one? And as the man's pointing out, the Swami's thinking, he's talking about me. He doesn't know that I'm sitting right next to him. So now, that's a lot of responsibility because you could totally pull a joke. You could totally pull a prank there. I think that he was just honest and let him know. But my point of saying that story is that there he's having the direct experience of the Swami who he so desires to wish and meet. But because of his understanding, he totally misses it. So similarly, you may have some great experience, but it's always predicated by what you understand it to be. So here Vedanta wants to show you, you have plenty of times in your life where the subject-object division suspends. And it could be something as somebody smiling, and that smile makes your day. You feel relaxed and like the world is okay now for a moment. Or maybe even in a crude joke, somebody pulls a prank or somebody says something a little irreverent and you can't help but laugh. And in that spark, there's truth in that because in that spark, the mind became free from that anxiety and you were relieved. Everything's fine, even though nothing had changed in the world. What that shows us is that what obtaining in that quiet mind is the spirit. So pramoda means that full involvement or that subject-object fusion where I feel that my desire for the other, that desire is actually, I can never be okay with myself. That kind of feeling that I'm not complete in myself. I always need one more or something around me, a few books, a cell phone, a few compliments. I always need something to feel okay. So Advaita Vedanta is saying you're okay, totally okay in and by yourself. And is that an isolative statement? No, no, no. Therefore, you can synergize and express and create in the world. So the heart of this bird is that temporary suspension we get. It said the word here is ananda. But what is the foundation of this? What is the base? Brahma pucham pratishtha. The base of the ground of this is Brahman. So the meaning of that is I was there to report my happy experience. That then alone I would be able to recall it. That memory. Last vacation, it was so great. I completely lost myself. I felt like everything was so perfect. The beach and the sunset and the friends that I met and the food that we ate. And it all feels kind of like a blur and happens so fast because that time, our perception of time totally changes when it collapses in the you that you are. But we never recognize or think about ourselves as that. We always think that, oh, I have to go there, go back to that destination resort and then get that again. But it's never the same. So we have to inquire. Here, Brahmapucham means that the base of that is you. When the mind is still, this manifests forth. Therefore, from this day onward, you never have to seek happiness. You can be it and express it. That is called moksha, please. That's called freedom because it's total clarity that my desire and my karma now becomes a tool to express my innate joy. I'm no longer a slave to that, prompted by seeking. So you stop becoming a seeker. When we say tattvam asi, it doesn't mean that you are a part of God. It means that you are God, which is happiness. Therefore, you become creative. Now, when you negate everything to get clarity on tvampada vichara, first we're doing tvampada vichara by this panchakosha. We're looking at, I am not this. I objectify that. A doubt can come here before the full attainment of that. A kind of doubt can come in the mind of a student that I've negated everything, but I'm left with nothing. What is to be known in that silence? What is to be known in that nothingness? So, what we're going to find next week is a very powerful mantra that talks about shunya, emptiness, and that Brahman is not non existence or emptiness. Brahman is to be known as oneself, the very presence that could assert the absence of things. That's a big leap. So when you say, I know nothing, or when you say, there's nothing, who's there? Who is that one? Who can even report that presence, that intelligence? So here, what we'll see next week is that the I requires no proof. It's only a matter of removing the superimpositions on it. And also this bold assertion that there's something, a presence. It's a positive entity that you are. It's the kind of commitment or sense that um, we see the world around us. There's definitely something here, and that can't come from non-existence. An existing thing can't arise from something non-existent. Meaning, even if it's subtle, it still should be something. So it's a kind of investigation on what is sat, truth, and what is asat, um, unreality, or what's not there. So in between that investigation, you arrive at a certain conclusion of appearance, things playing, and like a dream. So we're going to look at that particular mantra, which you can also look of it as the guru giving the shishya some positive affirmation and confidence that don't fear. Sometimes it can feel like in this inquiry, I might be falling in a bottomless pit and I can't catch my footing. I just feel that there's nothing there. I've negated everything. So Guru says, don't worry. You're in good hands. Keep looking. Be quiet. Listen, and you'll understand. So it will be an investigation on shunya, emptiness, or asat, non-existence, and Brahman being existence. So this we have to look forward to. And there's some unanswerable questions to come, some questions from the student trying to grasp the subtlety of this. And there the guru takes a particular approach of just remaining quiet and continuing the teaching. And then we'll see another creation story where instead of Brahman creating through order, structures, Brahman will create through pure sankalpa, just by desire. Everything in one swoosh appears. Kind of just like in one swoosh, our mind creates an entire person, dream world, dream things. Just like that. Very similar. So let us close with a prayer. So now when we think about that equation, what's obtaining there is Chaitanya Atma, consciousness. And Brahma is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, the very consciousness by which the world appears. Therefore, the equation matches. Atma Chaitanyam is that Brahma Chaitanyam, that consciousness. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.